Hello, learners. I am Maria G.S.C. Mohammed, your teacher in oral communication. I hope that you are doing fine as you try to adjust and adapt to the new normal in education. May you continue growing as we shift to the modular learning modality. I hope that this lesson will at least help you with your module. For this week, we are going to discuss the nature and process of communication. At the end of the lesson, you were expected to, first, to explain the nature and process of communication. Second, to understand the relationship of the functions of communication to everyday life. And last, to illustrate the process of communication. Let's start. What is communication? You may give me thousands and endless meanings of communication, but let's agree that in this lesson, we will only use one meaning of communication, and this is by Gregorium 2015. According to him, communication is a means of sharing and exchanging messages, information, and ideas, or even feelings for mutual understanding. I know that we communicate every day. And why do we communicate? We communicate because we want to connect with people and we want to connect with the world we live in. Let's further define communication. Communication is a message understood. If your friend tells you, where came first? You might not understand where came first because of its arrangement. Where came first? First came where? It's very confusing. So, what do we mean by a message understood? So, when is a message understood? A message is understood when communication becomes clear. You use the right words with its proper arrangement for you to convey your feelings and your thoughts. Also, a message is understood when the receiver not only heard you, but also understood what you meant. Then, we hit the goal. The second key term is communication is social interaction through messages. Imagine your mom telling you, it is very warm today. So, your mom is telling you her feelings about the weather. She doesn't feel good because it's so hot. And that is very important because communication is through social interaction with messages, of course. Whenever we convey our message, we negotiate, we transact, or we even share problems. And after sharing it, a solution is provided. Can you imagine your home without your parents, your siblings, and you talking? Then it will be very problematic. There will be problems. That's why communication is very important in the society. There, communication is social interaction through messages. Communication comes in various forms. They may be through words or they may be through actions. Here are some of the examples, but they are not limited to nodding of your head to indicate that you agree or you understood, stretching of your hands. Whenever you are listening to the teacher and you stretch your hands, this might mean that you are bored. So please refrain from doing that. Raising your eyebrow to indicate curiosity. The three examples that I had given you a while ago are all examples of communication through actions. Now, let's have an example for words. Constant exchange of text messages. This may be to your mom, to your sister, to your classmate, to your friend, or anyone. You use words for you to convey your message. So, why do we communicate? Communication happens to share one's thoughts, ideas, insights, or feelings. Going back, we have also encountered these words, and these words were found in the meaning of communication as stated by Gregorium 2015. Can you try to recall the meaning of communication? Thank you for reciting that. Communication may be done in two ways, verbally or non-verbally. So let's try to check what verbally and non-verbally are. The first one, verbal. This is communication through the use of words. Whenever we use words, this may be written or spoken. Written. This is communication through writing. Whenever you use a pen or a paper, or even when you use your cell phone to tell someone your feelings, your thoughts, or your ideas, that is written. On the other hand, spoken is the use of your oral facility for you to convey your message. This can be done face to face or through the use of technology. The second one, nonverbal. This is communication through the use of actions. Actions may be in forms of gestures. Example, you wave to say hello. You do a heart sign to say I love you. You do a thumbs up to show your approval. Those are gestures. Another are in forms of facial expressions. You pout to show your disapproval. You smile to show that you are happy. Or you do a thumbs down if you say that you don't like it. Communication is an integral part of the society because we are social beings. We live to interact regularly with others. And we do communicate to connect to one another and to the world we live in. In the history of mankind, early man can't speak as we do today. We are very lucky because we have a language that we use for us to share our thoughts, our feelings, and our ideas to other people. Though our ancestors have communicated before, they don't have the words that we have now. Still, they do communicate, and they use communication techniques. Lil John 2002, as cited in Al-Mudzadali, no date, listed ways of how they communicated. They communicated through symbols, through sounds, and through drawings. These three are very important to our ancestors, and I know that you are familiar with these things because you had this in your social science classes. Over the years, communication has developed tremendously. Language developed side by side with technology. Look at you now. You are at the comfort of your homes, watching me teach you the lesson. That is through the use of technology. You may learn language skills and language lessons through this improvement. Communication has also helped build relationships and the community at large. It's very easy for us to access information and other things through the use of technology. Now that you have understood the meaning of communication, now understand its nature. I have prepared here three nature of communication. By the way, nature of communication is not in your module. I added this one for you to better understand communication. So, what are the nature? The first one, communication is a process. Later on, you will know why communication is a process. Second, communication occurs between two or more people, like you talking to your friend, you talking to your mom, or you talking to your group of friends or even classmates. That is communication occurring between two or more people. Yet, you may be wondering, what if I'm talking to myself? Is it an example of communication? Well, as the nature says, it only occurs between two or more people. But in our next lessons, that question will be answered. So wait for it. Third, communication can be expressed through verbal when using words, non-verbal when using actions, or both at the same time. Because we might speak And then we might do actions at the same time. Like now, I'm speaking and I'm doing hand gestures. Now that you understood communication and its nature, we're down to the last, the process of communication. But before we go to the process of communication, it is important for you to understand first the elements of communication. Just a reminder, the elements of communication can't be found in your module. I am just discussing this as an additional information for you to better understand the lesson. So, what are the elements of communication? In this photo, we can see a wife and a husband talking. We will identify the elements through the photo. Let's have the first. The first is the speaker, and in this photo, it is the wife. The speaker is the source of the information. The speaker can also be called a sender. The second element is encoding. Encoding is the process of converting the message into words, actions, or other forms. So, it is up to the wife on how to convert it. She may have words, actions, or even both of them at the same time. The third element is the message. It is the information, ideas, thoughts, or even feelings that the sender wants to communicate. The fourth element is the channel. The channel is the medium, passage, or route through which encoded message is passed. This message is passed by the sender to the receiver. What are the example of channels? We have face-to-face, like what they are doing right now, mobile, electronic, written, or even broadcast. Next element of communication is decoding. Decoding is the process of interpreting the encoded message. Who's doing decoding? The receiver is the one doing the decoding when the message is sent. If for the speaker it is encoding, it is decoding for the receiver. Next, the receiver. The receiver is the recipient of the message. The receiver may also be called a listener. And the last element of communication is barrier. The barrier is the factor that affects the flow of communication. There are lots of barriers in communication. This may be noise, which is physical, psychological, semantic, and lots. It can also be your lack of confidence. It can also be because of time pressure. And those are the elements of communication. I hope you remember them because they are needed when we discuss the process of communication. Let's have the communication process. And we are using the same photo for you to understand the roles of the speaker and the receiver. In this case, they are the wife and the husband. The speaker responds to a stimulus in which she encodes the message. She sends the message to the receiver through a certain channel. If you can remember, the channel may be face-to-face, mobile, broadcast, or written. In this case, it is face-to-face. And then, the receiver decodes the message. After decoding the message, the receiver now tries to encode a message as an answer to the sender. This message is now called a feedback. The receiver encodes, then understands, and then the sender now understands and encodes another message. In this scenario, the speaker and the receiver exchange their roles. That is communication. The receiver will not only be the receiver all the time. The receiver will be a sender, and the sender will be a receiver. That's the communication process. So, the speaker and the receiver are exchanging messages. Barrier may still be present in the communication process. It is very important for the people talking to make communication successful despite the barriers present. Do you wonder if we fail to communicate? Yes, we do fail to communicate. And we fail to communicate when our actions don't match our words. I know you are very familiar with the saying, actions speak louder than words. I'll give you a concrete example which you can really relate to. You tell your mom, I love you, but you don't do the household chores. You get mad at her whenever she doesn't allow you to go out with friends. There is a failure of communication. They don't match actions and words. The second one is our speed. Sometimes, whenever we speak, we tend to be very fast, and that is a failure of communication because the receiver can't understand what you're saying. The third one is our volume. There are times when we tend to become very loud, especially when we're excited, and the other person can't understand you. Or whenever you are sharing a secret, you tend to have a very low voice, and the receiver can't also understand you. So it's very important for us to have our voice well modulated. And most of the time, we fail to communicate because of our words, because our words are not brief, we are not concise, and also our words devoid actions. This is only applicable whenever we are writing, because the person reading our messages can't see your actions. So why do we communicate? We communicate because I have here plenty of examples of why we communicate, and they are not limited to the ones that I will give you. There are still lots of reasons there why we communicate. First, by ourselves, informed. We are misinformed. We want to counsel, especially with people who are seeking for advice. Whenever we want to clarify or question something, we express, like expressing your love to someone. We promote. We promote products, advocacies. We are confused, so we confirm or we clarify. We communicate because we want to give an advice. We communicate to teach, just like what I'm doing right now. I am doing a video so that it may assist you in learning. And at the same time, while you're watching me, you are learning. And that's communication. We want to persuade. We communicate to motivate. We communicate to accept or to affirm. We communicate because we want to reveal something, because we criticize someone, or deny an accusation, or to hide something. Can you imagine a world without communication? A home without communication? A school without communication? A church without communication? How can we ask questions? How can we share our experiences? Or how about our relationships? What will happen to all of us? Is it really possible to not have communication around? I bet not, because communication is our way of expressing our feelings, our thoughts, and our ideas. Without communication, nothing will happen to the society. Communication is crucial in building and maintaining relationships. It is only through communication that we will be able to build a better world. I want to say thank you very much for watching my discussion, and I hope you learned something from it. And if it's not too much, I'm asking you to subscribe to my channel. See you on my next lesson.